This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Emotionally unavailable. Welcome, Kirsten, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Are you in Ireland?
No, in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. It was your last name, and then I couldn't place your accent. It's weird because as much as, like, presence and grounding as I've done in the last 3 months, still there are moments of fog. And I know that, like, someone sent me your profile and I was like, yes, I want to talk to her. So I immediately messaged, and I remember being really tired around that time. But you'll be happy to know that I started a new, like, little structured day the last couple of weeks, and I haven't been going to sleep after my youngest goes to school because you know, she'd be waking up early. And so I'd go back to sleep, and I will tell you, it wasn't doing me any favors. I was like, man, there's just not enough hours in the day. And there weren't, because I was sleeping them away. But I've been sleeping a lot less, and so I'm feeling like so much more like awake and alert. So that's nice.
Although sleep's important.
And it was. I wasn't
It
shitting
is
myself,
important.
but it was like where it was getting like gross feeling. Like I just wasn't, anytime I was awake, I was like, oh, my body just feels so heavy. And because it was the timing. Now listen, honey, I'm still taking my naps. I will take a nap every afternoon. I sure will. And that's who I will probably be for the rest of my life. But I'm at least having some really productive hours in the morning. So I'm like, okay, we can do this. It's okay. Because like I told you, I was having such struggles with emails and like things like that, to where I was like, what is up? And then I realized, like, well, honey, if you sleep a little less, you might have time for that stuff. So that's what I've been doing. Well, it's so nice to meet you. You know, for the audience today, we're going to talk about a lot of sensitive topics, but I think that it's going to be a really powerful and transformational conversation. I love the work that you're doing in the grief space, because there are so many things that if you haven't experienced anything like this, you just don't understand. And for years, if I'm being honest, for years, so much of my work in the grief space, because I had losses, like my dad died when I was 15, my mom died when I was 22, and then some other relatives and whatever, but loss has been a real theme in my life, and I used to work for a hospice. So I used to do a lot of education around grief, versus now I've been really, like, I'm talking about it in the middle of it, what today looks like, what yesterday looked like, you know, just very in the moment. And it does look different for me than it did then, because I spent like a year and a half prior to losing my son working on myself and healing so many things. And so it does look different for me, because I had this whole toolbox ready at my disposal, and a love for myself that said, I am worth not throwing everything that I've created in the last year and a half away by drowning in this. So how am I going to not drown in it, you know? So that's
I love that. Yeah, I love that about the toolbox, because the thing is, whilst you can never quite prepare for things, having that toolbox that you already use in your everyday life is one of the things that gets you through, I think. Like, so Kahlia, my daughter, died, and she struggled with mental health for a number of years, but a lot during the last year. And so we together worked on mental health and strategies and tools. And so when she died, I had that toolbox ready as well. It's so important if you're going through, any form of trauma or any hard times, you can't start then. You have to, have that
Yes.
foundation of your own self worth, or that something in your core that you can pull to.
Yes.
And doesn't have to be complicated, but you do need a foundation, and I found that huge that I could rely on that.
Yeah, and you just made me think of like 100 things at once, but what this really brings up for me is all the times that in my past I have watched from afar, maybe on social media or something, someone going through even a traumatic loss, not just like, uncomplicated grief, I'll say. Because all
Mm.
loss sucks, and I don't want to make
Yeah.
comparisons, but there is a complicated
No.
grief and an uncomplicated grief. And where I think so many people stumble in those early days is they think they just need to go talk about the loss. And yes, that's important. It's important to get it out. It really is. And then grief really just shines a big old spotlight on everything you already had going on within you. That's the thing I've
Yeah.
noticed. And I think that's why I am carrying it in such a healthy manner, because I was already somewhat aware of these things, but the second it started showing me, I got curious and said, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's see what that is. Because those feelings of isolation, those feelings of loneliness, the feeling of like nobody sees me, all of that was honestly stuff I struggled with before. It was stuff I was already dealing with and constantly working through. And so, yeah, I think there is this misunderstanding of what grief work is. And again, I'll say, yes, there is a lot about like just talking about what you're feeling and what you experienced with the loss, but so much of it is what was already there to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that where that plays in as well is people think that grief is simply an emotion, like they're simply sad, but it's not. It's a whole identity shift, really, or a whole, like you said, like I remember, um, like I've written a book about the first year after Kahlia died, and I sort of explored a lot of it. And I remember talking about how grief felt to me, and it felt like my skin being ripped off. So your whole skin's ripped off, you're raw, and you're there, and you need to re-put that skin on, or look after the scab almost. God,
I
that's a nice
know,
metaphor, but
it's
it
so
is feels
real.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking last night, I opted to skip a family wedding. It was over the weekend. We just lost Jake 3 months ago on Friday. The wedding would have been Saturday, and his birthday was a week prior. And so I
Oh,
was like, you know what? I would have required travel, buying new clothes, all these things. And I just said, I think I'm going to not even put myself through that. And I'm
well
so
done.
glad I didn't go, because last night I checked in and said, how was the wedding? Whatever. And my friend sent me like her daughter's maid of honor speech, because she was the younger sister of the person getting married, the bride, and then a couple other, and I was just like, this hurts so much. Like the sibling thing hurts so much,
Yeah.
and I'm not upset with anyone at all, just to clarify, but like,
No.
and I have two other living children who are still siblings, and
Yeah.
yet this hurt me so bad. And I was like, actually, if I'm being honest, everything hurts. Everything
Yeah.
hurts when I watch other people. It just brings it up all the time. And I realized in that moment, there's been a lot of moments where I could have a full body reaction and
Yeah.
then kind of dismiss it and move on. Like as well as I'm carrying this, even I am still dismissing stuff. It was only in that moment that I realized how much stuff I really am being like, okay, well, you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. Because that was a moment where it didn't make sense why I was like reacting so strongly to a sibling dynamic when I have two siblings in my house all the time, you know? But it was just another
There's
moment.
no rules. Yeah, there's no rules in grief. And that's so cool and powerful that you gave yourself permission not to do that. I say no to things all the time. I say yes to things too, but I have Kahlia died almost 2 years ago, and I haven't her and I loved Christmas together. I haven't celebrated Christmas since she died. And it doesn't mean that I'm ignoring things. I've got two other children as well,
Okay.
and none of us celebrate it at the moment, and that's okay. Like people might think, oh, that's a bit weird and that's cruel, but it's you don't have to perform. And if I was doing those things, I'd feel like I was performing. This year, I might do something. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you're allowed to opt out of things, and you're allowed to do things the way you need to do it, because you're the only one going through this. Everyone else is grieving your son as well. We know that. But you're the only one grieving him as you. So you can do it how.
So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
However you want to, and I don't know, I just don't care anymore. That is a part of grief. I certainly care, don't get me wrong, but I feel fine saying no.
Yes.
And I mean, I've had people say things like, not to me, but I've heard roundabouts that shouldn't I be over it by
Oh
now?
my
Well,
God.
no, I shouldn't. And I'm not going to be. And just because it makes them uncomfortable that I'm not doing Christmas, well, it's got nothing to do with them. Like they do
Right.
their own Christmas. I'm not telling them what to do.
Right.
So I think, yeah, you've got to really protect, and that's that self-care, that toolbox again. You've got to really protect yourself because you know you, and you're the only one. I just wanted to say something because it made me laugh earlier when you said, you said, bringing things up from your past and grief can amplify it, which I really like that phrasing. But I remember when Kahlia died, and I don't know if I was just delusional, but I get anxiety and stuff like that, and worry about things probably a bit too much. And I remember when she died, I had this great thought, and I thought, yes. I thought the worst thing has happened to me now. Now I don't need to be afraid of anything. I can do whatever and live a fearless life. That lasted about a day,
Yeah.
and then all my anxieties came
Yeah.
back, and I
Yeah.
started to worry about things even more. But it was really funny.
No, I
Yeah.
resonate with that because I had a moment like that too, because this had been my worst fear forever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and very specifically with him, this exact thing happening, I was worried about it. And then yes, I had a small period where I was like, I mean, I guess I really can just get through anything, you know? And
Yeah.
and then do you know what it took for me to realize? Well, my oldest, I didn't let him leave that. He's 23, by the way. And I was like,
Mm,
please don't
mm,
leave for New Year's Eve because this was right after it, like,
mm.
a couple weeks. And I was like, I can't handle it. Like, I cannot even think about you being on the road on New Year's Eve. And then we also got a little puppy. and I was having full
Mm.
blown panic attacks worrying about something happened to this puppy.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, I don't have panic attacks. Have I always struggled a little bit with anxiety? Yes, but over the last year and a half, I really
Mm.
haven't. And I was like, girl, your
Yeah.
nervous system is jacked. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
even realize how bad it was until that moment when I was literally hyperventilating over a puppy who was, by the way, just fine. And so,
I
yeah,
know.
I
I
love that
know.
you're
Yeah.
you're highlighting
Yeah.
that, because it's funny what our brain will do, like in those moments. Like, okay, I guess, now that the worst happened, we just,
Yeah.
I know
I
what to
thought it was
expect.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think too,
And
there's, I think that the reason, because I thought for a second too, like, I'm not as afraid as I used to be of anything happening to me now. Because, like, while I wouldn't do
oh yeah.
anything to
Yeah. Yeah.
myself,
Me
it was
too.
like, well, but I get to be
Mm.
with him. So
Yeah.
that's a little
Exactly.
tricky.
Yeah.
That's a little tricky. I have to stay away from that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're right, because there's such a realization, and it's, and it's tricky and it's hard, but I think it's important to say that horrible thought that there's so much life left without them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
a horrible thought, but it is about having to redirect that, and we're here, and with other children and other responsibility and life, and we deserve
We
a
deserve.
good life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We are worthy of love in this lifetime. And that's why
yeah,
anytime anything like that comes up, this is why for years I've tried to tell people, don't pre-grieve the year. Grieve now. Like, if
mm,
you're missing them, cry
mm,
now. It
mm,
hurts, it whatever. Don't start counting up all the shit you're going to live without them, because it is so overwhelming. So anytime I go there, I try to gently be like, okay, what are you
yeah,
feeling right now? Let's cry if we need to. Let's talk if we need to. Let's whatever.
yes,
But don't
yeah,
start counting up all the stuff that you're not going to get with them, because that is the stuff that
no,
will sink you very quickly.
yeah, yeah, and you're right. It's about, sometimes you can amplify it in your own head, so it's about just actually feeling what you're feeling at that time. Yeah, not adding it up, not piling it all on there. Because sometimes when you have those real grief days, oh, it's so easy to do that. You
Yes.
just dig yourself into such a hole. And that's okay. Sometimes you need them, but you do, again, it's those boundaries and that protecting yourself. You don't want to go down that tunnel too as harder than you need to be. You don't need to make it harder than it
Yes.
already is on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that I recognized from my very first loss to this loss, and there are lots of parallels since they both died of an overdose, um, is that, and I forgive myself for this. I give myself so much grace for this at 15. I had no idea, nobody to help me grieve. But I do remember
Mm,
intentionally going down those holes because it was the only way I knew to experience the feelings. And it wasn't as
yeah.
much
Yeah.
feelings as it was overthinking driving some physiological response. And I think that naturally we do not feel, we think, we love to intellectualize. And
Mm,
so
mm,
I try just more than anything to be aware of when my brain is wanting to do that because it doesn't know how to process something. But I have found this beautiful thing where if I just go, what do I need, and stop, my body will physically do all the work for me. It will
yeah.
cry
Yeah.
for, a couple of minutes. I mean, there's been 30-minute bursts here and there in a shower, but truly not that much of this really hardcore full body wrenching thing, because my body just does what it needs to, because I'm trying very hard to be there when I'm feeling and an emotion needs
Mm,
to move, instead of in my brain piling it on, assigning a bunch of meaning. And that was the thing that I did at 15. I was performing for myself because I didn't know how else to access any type of
yeah.
emotion.
Yeah. You've got to, what do they say? You've got to feel it to heal it, which I really agree with. You've got to let yourself feel it. And you're right. If you let yourself feel it at the time, not putting it off, not catastrophizing it, it's manageable, small bits. But if you don't, and it builds up and builds up and builds up, that's when it can be worse for you. Because when so a little bit different than you, so I haven't been around a lot of death or grief in my life. In fact, I've been really privileged. So, like my parents are alive, and Kahlia is the first person that's close to me. So it was pretty,
Very
pretty
traumatic, yes.
new.
Yeah.
And Kahlia and I are extremely close. Like I hate it when people's parents say that they're your best friends and stuff like that. But we certainly were really close. She did call me her soulmate on occasion. Like we were really, really close, and our lives were really intertwined. And so I started writing was how I what really worked for me. And I've since found that writing actually helps that emotional part of the brain process. Like, so the front part, so your front part of your brain, when you're grieving, sort of cuts off. Like, that's why emails and everything are so hard. You can't actually think properly. Like, it's actually a physiological response because you're dealing with shock and you're actually dealing with the emotions. So getting those emotions out really helps every aspect of your brain. So for me, it was writing. And so Carls and I used to speak like 3 or 4 times a day. And like we'd always ring each other. And so I really missed that conversation. So it started off writing letters, and then it would be like just ranting or saying the same word over and over again. But it gave me a way to get it out of my body. And like you said, like if you're going round and round and round in your head, it sounds logical in your head, but actually getting it out through emotion, or for me, it was writing an emotion. I could actually see some of the stuff that I was thinking. And I just thought, God, you're going a bit nuts, Kirsten. That's not true. Or Carlos doesn't think that. Or, but just getting it out was a really, really powerful tool for me.
Yeah. And I don't know why I'm hesitating to write at all. And I think that part of it is just very like specific to me, and it's because for so long I was a writer, and it was because I was afraid to use my voice, and because I couldn't perfectly craft a sentence in like as it's coming out in real time. And so for me, I have just been talking a lot, which has been very helpful because I used to silence myself a lot. But I have been starting to feel more of a pull to also writing, just in those moments where, like, I'm not going to go hop on a camera. But I do know at first it was a really big lesson to see. Like, I had always had this idea that you speak what you're thinking and feeling for a certain reaction, like so that people could help you, like really, like I thought that. And that first week, just saying stuff, because I was like, don't hold it in, like don't internalize things the way you always have in your whole life. So I would just say the crazy thing out loud to my family, because I have been very lucky that my oldest son, he had moved home not long before, and my husband, our younger child, is here too, but she's not that much help. But like, I can say the crazy stuff out loud to them, and they know exactly how to hold it, and so that's been very, very helpful. But at first, I really was like, well, who do you talk to? Because everything that everyone says to me hurts. No matter what it was, like it did not matter. Even a couple of people offered, and they must have had child loss or something, because I can think of a couple of different examples where it was balm to my spirit. It actually helped. Everything else hurt so badly to where I was like, just say I'm sorry and I love you. Please just stop trying to make it better. It hurts so much. And so I was like, well, then who do you talk to? And then I realized, okay, those are two separate things. You talk or write to get it out. No one around you is going to be your therapist. Like, and even a therapist, if they haven't been through this, may not get it right. So I really had to differentiate what the purpose of getting it out was. And it is not about anybody else's response. And it is literally so that it does not live inside you.
Yeah, and I like writing. I often talk about as writing being your witness. So when you don't, because you do have horrible thoughts, and you don't always want to say those thoughts out to someone, and it's horrible about yourself often, like
Yes.
guilt and anger
Yes.
and all those sorts of things that are really natural that need to come out. Doesn't mean they're true, but just not holding on to them, not thinking, oh, I shouldn't say that. Like whether you say it or you get it out in writing, you need to get it out,
Yes.
because living in your body
Yes.
is just makes it way worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved what you said about how when it's inside of you, you can go round and round and round with it and never really see the lie in what is being said inside of you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I noticed, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the thing I've been missing." Like even in the work I've been doing over the last year and a half, that was a big part of what I was missing was the lies are going to circulate until you find a way to get it
Yeah.
out. And I will say
Yeah.
one of the
And
things that I'm really struggling with, I don't know if I'd phrase it that way, but something I dismiss a lot, so I know it's a struggle, is this feeling just like that can really take over every part of me of like, I have no, I don't know how to phrase this, but I feel like I've lost any authority in
mm,
talking about parenting or mental health in teens or whatever because it's like what the fuck do I know, like, like I thought I knew a
yeah,
lot and my fucking
you
kid's
do.
dead, you know what
You
I
do.
mean?
And yeah, and I mean, I really get what you mean, but the thing is, how much were you there and how much did you help beforehand? Just because the outcome is death, it doesn't mean that you didn't help. Kahlia died by suicide, and she had had several attempts beforehand, and but I could have kept her here for longer than she would have been if I hadn't have been around.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing to do with love. It's nothing, it's a mental health issue. It's an unwell brain. So we do still have authority to be able to speak about those things because we've been through it. And just because they died doesn't mean that we did anything wrong.
Right. Well, and I think the thing that really helped me was a friend of mine, um she said, "Yeah, but like my kid did a lot of that stuff too, and he didn't die. Like there, and I
Exactly.
did things just like you. Like there, there's some things
Yes.
different, some things not, whatever." And I saw even I'm perpetually addicted to the internet. I'm not gonna lie. So, well, mostly TikTok. And I saw someone on TikTok talking about tough love didn't work with their loved one, that they had kicked them out and um they overdosed and died. And I was like, well, regular love didn't work either. Like it for us, like I hadn't reached we hadn't reached a point where tough love was necessary. There was some things that I actually didn't even know we had had a drug use in the past, but I didn't know he was doing any of the stuff that was found in his room when we found him. I had no clue.
Mm,
So
mm, mm,
of course I would have done things differently had I known that he was
mm.
using opiates and whatever. I had an inkling, a mother's intuition that said something's off, but I mean, I have worried about this child since the day he came into this world, so that wasn't new to me, you
Mm,
know? And then also, I think another good point is that I had started doing things differently in the last year and a half, a couple years,
mm,
because honestly, the mental health crisis that happened to lead me to all of this work was kind of dealing with his shit, like cuz
yeah.
I had faced like I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. And so I kind of spiraled and then I had to become better and more well and then started to help him. And I'm not
Mm,
sad that he spent the last year and a half of his life knowing I loved the shit out of him no matter what. I'm not going to regret that.
have you heard of moral injury?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what you're explaining, especially when we feel that it's our responsibility to help someone. It's that those feelings of what could we have done differently, and it's so much deeper than grief, and especially parents. We walk this road, and it because we feel that we should have done something, but we did do something. And that's really important to remember. We can't control the world. We don't know what is out there. I think it's extremely hard with mental health because so much onus is put on the individuals around the person, but it's so hard and it's so difficult. I also went through that. Maybe I should have been tougher with Kahlia. I'm not like that though, and I never wanted her to feel guilty for what she did because I loved being around her and it wasn't. I chose to be there and I loved her to bits. So I didn't want her carrying guilt that she had hurt me or anything like that because it wasn't a well brain. If it wasn't, she didn't want to hurt me. She didn't want to hurt anyone. It's them trying to handle the world the only way that they know how from being very, very unwell. So I do, yeah, you do think, should I have been harder? Should I have been softer? Should I have done this? Should I have done this? But the problem is the outcome's still the same, no matter what we did. We can't change it. And I have to constantly remind myself because before Kahlia died, I was very much like I have no regrets in my life. Not that anything was great or I didn't do anything wrong, but I always thought I won't change anything because of how things are now. However, since Kahlia died, I've been right through my life and I want to change a million things to change this outcome. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything because she's dead and I can't change it. So I can either punish myself, and I do, like I can't control my thoughts all the time. And sometimes I do go down that rabbit warren, but I do try and give myself a bit of self-care and just sort of remind myself that, yeah, I can choose to go down that road. And sometimes I do, or I can choose not to, because at the end of the day, the outcome's the same.
Yes, that is exactly what I said from day one. Because a friend's words have haunted me from the second I found my child in his room, which was trying to tell me the first time I found out about like hardcore drug usage that I needed to like force him into a rehab. And I've been around addicts my whole life, so like
you can't force anyone.
it doesn't work. And so and they were telling me so hardcore in kind of a cruel way, like, well, if he dies, you're gonna blame yourself. And the subtext was, it will be your fault. I mean, like, I got what the message was. You know what I mean? And that was something that came up. I mean, it was one of the first things I thought of. But I told myself right then, like, sure, as his mom, I can name thousands of things that if I had known that on December 13th I was going to open his door and that's where he would be, yeah, I'd fucking do a lot differently. I would, but I didn't have that information then when I was making those decisions. The information I had was I love him so much and that I grew up with a brother with mental health issues who was shamed and guilted and treated like the black sheep that he became in our family. And I would never make my kid feel that way. That was the information I had. And so I was parenting from that place that I just wanted him to know how much I love him. That was it. Like,
is that not the but that's the most important thing. And yes, he died, but he also died loved.
Yes.
Like I just think I spoke at Kahlia's funeral and that's what I said. I said at the end that love is the most important thing. And that's the one regret I don't have is that she knew how much I loved her. And you've got to do things your way. And maybe tough love works for some people. I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
It just didn't work for me. And if I had have gone that route with Kahlia, one, she was 24 years old. She's an adult. I don't have control over her life. And it would have created a wedge between us. Like I would have been inauthentic in my relationship with her. She would have felt controlled and horrible. She was really stubborn and opinionated. If I told her what to do with her life, that would have been it. Like And she was an adult, and I don't like people telling me what to do.
Right.
So, and I just think mental health, she's already beating herself up inside. She's already feeling terrible. Why am I going to layer on top of that? And that's
Exactly.
why I say that those feelings of love, like knowing someone loves you unconditionally, no matter what you do, is that not the most powerful thing? And I feel that she died feeling that,
Yes.
and I'm glad.
Yes.
Not glad she died. Sorry, God, that came out wrong. But
I get what
like
you're saying.
I don't. She was loved, and I again in the one thing that I feel really privileged over is that I know how much she loved me too. I saw something and it really broke my heart. It was a mother talking, her son had died by suicide, and she was really upset and talking about how could he choose to die, did he not love her enough? And that really broke my heart because I've never gone down that road,
Yeah.
because one, I don't think suicide is a choice at all. It's a mental health issue.
Right.
It's like, you and I sitting here with our brains that are somewhat okay. We would never choose that, but someone that is really hurting and in pain and their brains half of, stops working and functioning properly, it's damaged. It's not a choice. It's not a choice from a sane brain. So
Right.
I've never felt that experience. But I've also, it's quite a lot of pressure to put on someone that it's a choice,
Yeah.
that they chose death over living in a world with you. Well, that's not true. But it did really break my heart. And that's why I like to talk about suicide a bit, because I really want to get rid of those feelings, because I know that if Kahlia had have, and she did, obviously had attempts, and she'd always apologize to me and feel
Oh, yeah.
terrible about it. But I knew it had nothing to do with me. It wasn't death or me. It
Right.
was something completely else. So that gives me a lot of comfort, but it does make me angry that the narrative is that.
That it's
And I
selfish
think that
and
that's
that, yeah.
awful.
Hmm.
Yeah, God,
Yeah.
yeah, that it's, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
as a
it's
person who like
attention
was very
seeking.
close to
Ugh.
it, because I'm that when I say mental health crisis, like I literally made a plan because I just got to, I mean, I was blaming myself for all of my children's problems and got to where I believed everyone in my life was better off without me, and so I decided to make a
Mm,
plan. And
yeah,
thankfully I set the date kind of far where it gave me just enough time to be like, well, let's try again. But it was not like, oh, they'll be fine without me. Like
mm,
they'll be sad, but it was not that. I was really consumed with a lot of lies that said like, your presence
yes,
in their life is going to be their downfall. So
yeah,
you are the reason that every bad thing has ever happened in their lives. That's some really serious pressure to feel. I mean, it sounds crazy to say that out loud, but it was really, really intense. And I really believed I was the root of every problem that anyone in my
yeah,
life had. So yeah, I mean, if we're gonna say it's a choice between anything like that, the only choice I was making was to make everybody else's lives better. But
yeah,
more importantly,
yeah,
I needed my suffering to stop. That was what I wanted,
yeah,
was my suffering
yeah.
to stop.
And thank you so much for bringing that up, because whenever I talk about suicide and things like that, do you know that it's more normal than not to have suicidal ideation? It doesn't mean that you're going to do it.
Right.
It means that it's actually, because we don't talk about it, people think it's abnormal to have
Mm-hmm.
suicidal thoughts
Mm-hmm.
from time to time. And most of us do. I certainly did. Especially after Kahlia died. I think there's been 3 occasions where it's gotten quite bad. But that's allowed me to see how it was for her
Yes.
for that time. And talking about it really frees you. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed about. It is more normal than we realize. It's just because it's a taboo subject
Yes.
and people don't talk about it.
Yes.
The amount of people, I would say that the amount of people that I talk to and like I'm throwing something out, but 3/4 of them that I speak to have had these types of thoughts. Doesn't mean they're going to do anything. There's a real difference between having the thoughts and following it through, and there's a real different thing. But actually, having the thoughts is not that unusual, and it's okay.
Yes, I talk so much about this, about intrusive thoughts in general,
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
more taboo they are, the more you pile on the shame and you don't get it out, the more the shame
yes,
compounds, and
yeah,
that is a dangerous little infinity ride where
yeah, and
you really can
oh,
go to
sorry.
some dark places.
And the thing is, if someone trusts you to sit, and I probably wasn't the best, I've learned a lot since Kahlia died, because when someone tells you that they're feeling that way, it's so automatic to say, no, but life is great, and
Yeah.
just do this, and come on, we'll make it better. And I probably did go down that avenue with Kahlia rather than just sitting in that space with her
From
and
fear, I'm
giving her
sure.
that time. But it is from fear. But the thing is, actually listening to someone and not trying to say, but life is great, because sometimes life isn't great. Sometimes it's really, really shit.
Right.
And just acknowledging that, um, but then, and just being with them, that's all that they need, and allowing them to talk it through. Because, like this is sort of going round and round, that when you get rid of those thoughts through talking or writing and things like that, it frees you and it gets it out of your body. It doesn't mean that it's never going to happen again,
No.
but that's really powerful that you can do to someone. But we do tend to, with grief or mental health or anything actually going wrong in someone's life, we try and fix it. We don't need to fix it. Grief can't be fixed. Suicidal thoughts can't be fixed. All those things, because fixing is the wrong word. They need to be witnessed
Yeah.
or heard. They can't be fixed as such.
Yeah, and I was just having this little talk with myself yesterday about how I still this is going to be my life struggle, I guess, of learning to be present with people instead of trying to offer any
Mm,
sort of solution. This has
yeah,
been something I've done my whole life. I think in efforts to not deal with my own stuff, but also because um well, a couple things. I do want to help. I have a servant's heart, but also
mm,
your shit makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel, and I don't know how to process my own stuff at the same time as yours. So I'm learning
yeah,
how to create that safety of like, okay, so cry with them if that, I mean, like if it, because I used to have this, because I'm a therapist and I've worked in grief and whatever, and it was always like I just thought you had to like come across a certain way of like professionalism and whatever. And now I don't give a shit if you say something that makes me cry. I'm just
no,
gonna cry with you like that. I'm a
yeah.
crier, so it's gonna
But that,
happen.
yeah, and but that's powerful. Like that's actually more fixing, for want of a better word. Like, we see it as passive. We see sitting in the space or sharing emotions with someone as passive, but it's not. It's the most active thing that you can do, being present, listening to them, holding their space, so that they feel comfortable enough to be emotional with you. That's the most powerful thing you can do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. You're right. It's so hard. And because it's actually easier to deflect, it's easier to say a platitude, it's easier to send something, because as we know, in grief, people get scared. One highlights the fact that people die. It's like, yeah,
Yes.
surprise.
Yes. Hmm.
Surprise, surprise,
You're like,
you're
I don't want
going
to
to
think about
face
that.
death. Yeah, but we are really grief illiterate in this world. It's just shocking. But we are going to face death. This is something that everyone is going to deal with, whether it's your own death or someone close to you. It's just part of the world. So we need to learn how to do better. But the thing is, just us as humans, we need to support each other and just, I don't know, get out of this sort of like, we really ignore all of our emotions, and we focus so much on growth and productivity and purpose. Like, obviously, since Kahlia's died, I've really immersed myself in this work. I've written a book, I've got courses, I do sort of online circles. I'm just about to publish, just starting the publishing process for my second book, like it's crazy.
That's
So I've
awesome.
really sat in this space. But this is not, Kahlia's death hasn't created purpose for me.
Right.
Kahlia's death has changed my worldview. I feel really close to Kahlia when I do this
Yeah.
work. So I often say that she started the conversation and I'm continuing it. Because if Kahlia, I would give up this work in a heartbeat if Kahlia was here. So I don't like to say that I found purpose through Kahlia's death,
Right.
because that makes it sound to me like there was a reason she died. There's
Which
no
is not
reason
what
she
you want to
died,
hear.
you know.
Exactly.
No. So those things are, yeah, we need to get out of this growth mindset that you need to make something of something. My life has changed because I've changed, and this is really important to me now. And I really enjoy doing the work in it. I really feel, I mean, I remember writing down, so my book is called The Year After Kahlia. So the names are so important. And I remember writing down when I was really angry one day, I'm going to let this world burn before they forget my daughter's name. And it's really something really fiery inside of me that I keep. And
Uh-huh.
that's really, really important to me. So the work is for her as well, you know.
Yes, and God knows I totally, yeah, I resonate with that. And I think I really had to, because the very first week or so, probably the first month, um I was very determined to help the people around me, like his friends specifically and
Hmm.
my other children. And it was not me performing at all. I was living the process out loud. So when they would say
Yeah.
the things that I knew to be very rabbit hole, detrimental, not going to help you at all, I would say, and I hear you, but here's where
Mm.
I'm at because this. And I did a lot of the,
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of the, and while any of those things you just said may be true, he's still dead and nothing's going to change that. So I was teaching them a lot
Yeah.
about that. But then I started to realize at a certain point, like, okay, my son doesn't need me to be his grief therapist. So I also have to back up. I wanted those early days to be a really good model, but then I had to learn, like, shut the hell up and just be present. You know, like
Yes. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like I'm dismissing him instead of, he didn't ask for my education, so I need to shut up. And so
Mm.
that was a really important shift for me, for when he's upset, to just be present and not offer
Yeah.
any sort of education or solutions.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how to, like, live in a world, because here's the God's honest truth for me is I haven't changed that much, because so much had changed inside of me the last year and a half. The things that I could name that have changed are my tolerance level of bullshit. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
And then, like some of the little administrative things that I've become not so great at, things like that. But I already felt this, like, enduring purpose and meaning and whatever. I nothing from this tragedy, aside from I want to do work around it because it makes me feel close to him, obviously. Like, so I understood what you meant by that.
Mm.
But it's hard for me to, like, get my other child to understand why it's totally okay for his life to feel so different now, even though mine doesn't. But that's because I had already shed everything that made me really miserable. Like, I'll
I,
suffer through,
yeah.
like, low income before I'll go work for somebody that makes me miserable. I'd already done all of those things, that grief,
Mm.
that the intolerance that you feel through grief allows you to do. I'd already done all that. So my day-to-day life really doesn't look all that different. And I don't feel all that different all the time, except for how bad every word other people say when they're trying to help hurts. That's really it. But it's hard for
I,
me to get
I,
him to
I,
understand that.
yeah, and I think that's really interesting because I felt that way for a long time too, and that I wasn't any different. Because I think we're still fundamentally ourselves, but I think when things settle a little bit, there's core things that change. One, the tolerance level, absolutely still have no tolerance. I can see through things like
Yes.
no one's business. Like I just don't care.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
when
Yes.
people are sort of um, little stresses and things. I mean, I feel them, but when people focus on them, I have to again, I have to, in all honesty, sit there and be present because that's a real concern for them. But really, in the back of my head, I'm like, really,
Oh
do
my
you really
gosh,
need to
thank you for
worry about?
naming that.
But
Because I feel
yeah,
guilty
but I
every time
do.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is what you're worrying about? Well, I have
Yeah,
dead kids,
yeah.
so
But I try, but in my head, I'm thinking that, but I know that that's me and it's not fair
yes.
because they are going through something and it's really important for me to still be in relationship with that
Yes.
person. But yeah,
But
you
it is
do.
nice to hear that you have the thoughts too. Because,
Yeah,
I mean, at this point,
yeah,
sometimes I'm just performing presence because I'm just working
yeah.
on not like, saying the words out loud.
Yeah. But and also the other thing is I can't stand small talk.
Mhm.
I would rather have a conversation about death or mental health than anything else. And I also just say it. People are funny, especially when you lose a child, they won't talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care. I talk to everyone about Kahlia.
Yes.
And, so there's certain things like that that's changed in me. But my core personality is still the same. I mean, I have, probably a pretty wicked sense of humor, whereas I've always laughed. I mean, we had jokes at the funeral, all kinds of things. I've not lost that. That was really important for me
Yeah.
to still hold on to and be a bit real. I mean, we had a terrible story. I should say, because it was
Yeah.
funny, and I have written about it in my
Yes.
book.
Tell
But this is an example of when it was. So, Kahlia, so I live in New Zealand, and Kahlia, whilst she died by suicide, she did die in hospital, but we had to travel to another hospital on a flight. So, it's when she died, I chose to have her cremated because I didn't want to bring her body home. So I had to carry her through the airport. But when we went up to Auckland, which is where we went, I sort of just packed my son's overnight bag. Oh, it's a bag that he'd bought when he was 5, and I always used it because, like it's a spare bag. Anyway, we were in the airport, so I put Kahlia in this bag and me and my partner in the airport, and we realised that this bag has ghosts all over it. So I was just in hysterics about Kahlia, carrying Kahlia through the airport in her ghost bag. But it was one of the, it's just those moments of lightness that you have. We just thought it was hilarious.
Yes.
And every time I look at the bag now, I still laugh. So you've got to have those moments of lightness and fun. And so you still have who you are, but just maybe it's a shift. Maybe that's a better way of putting
Yes.
it. Like
Yes.
there's just a shift. And
Yeah, and I
I don't
kind of
know if you
like
ever.
knowing that a couple of these things aren't going away. Like, I mean, I knew this. I
Yeah,
knew I
yeah.
knew that I was in a new normal, but I was analyzing it too much because I was like, but I don't feel that new. Like it's very weird because I remember
Yeah.
the distinct before and after with my dad and with my mom and even with my grandma who had been my primary caregiver, all these
Mm,
things, but I never felt the distinct before and after aside from the pain, you know what I mean, but like
yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
But I did, it wasn't like I already had zero tolerance for small talk. I have none,
Yeah.
no tolerance, no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
listen, people don't really want to sit around talking about heavy shit all the time the way I do, and I'm like, then you're not my people right now. Like you
Yeah.
come or you
Yeah.
go, but I'm not doing anything differently. And I find myself being like, and I don't fucking care if you're uncomfortable if I talk about Jake.
Yeah.
That's something where my prior grief experience, I held it all in because I was like, oh, well, I can see the awkward shift. I can whatever. And I'm like, and go be awkward then. I don't know what to tell you because I'm going to talk about my kids. So there have been the
But
same types of things. But I guess I just thought, I don't know. I was expecting some really crazy paradigm shift or something. And I'm like, I don't know.
mm,
I still feel really me, just a little more agitated.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the other thing is that I don't like to say whole, but that grief will sit with you, and I want it to sit with me. Like I get a sort of visceral response when people talk about getting over grieving because I will never get over
Right.
Kahlia's death. I will grieve her till the day I die, and I want to. Like, it doesn't mean I'm sad all the time, but there's always something missing, and I never feel quite, um, like happy. I am happy, but I am happy and I'm grieving and I miss her in every single breath. And but I wouldn't have it any different.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's sort of, yeah, that sort of, that feeling is there, which some people are really, really uncomfortable with. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to feel that way. It's your choice.
Yes.
This is how I choose to do it and what feels right to me. But it doesn't mean that I'm depressed or I'm sad or anything. It just means I'm carrying both
That's
at the same
exactly what I
time.
was going to
And
say. Yes.
yeah,
And there's
yeah,
room for both if you allow it. I was really
yeah,
annoyed at first. A couple of people, a couple of times said, it was so good to see you laughing and smiling today. And I was like, shut the
mm,
fuck up, because that doesn't
yeah,
mean that it's not still right here every minute of every day. Like, I know
yeah,
what you mean by that. And it was, oh, I feel like I got, Jake off your mind for an hour while you were at this event or whatever. No, he was still there every
yeah,
second of that. And I was still
yeah,
devastated every second of that. But I can
yeah,
also feel joy and love because I'm choosing to. I'm making an active
yes,
choice, but I'm feeling both. And there's room for both.
yes,
And don't ignore one. And one shouldn't be more socially acceptable. If I had gone to the event and stayed just witnessing all the stuff that was happening and stayed quiet and didn't laugh, that would have been fine too. Like,
yes, yeah,
however I want to show up is however I want to show up. I try not to get really belligerent about stuff like that because I'm trying
mm,
also, because I also know my belligerence about some of these things is why people just abandon ship when someone they love is
mm,
going through,
mm,
because
mm,
they don't feel like they're enough to show up, and we're going to get pissy when they say something. I'm just asking
yeah,
for you to allow me to be human, and I'll allow the same
yeah,
thing. Let me tell you when something that you say hurts, and I'm not mad at
mm,
you. I just need to get it out, like, and then show
mm,
up a little
mm,
bit better next time. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, we all say these things. It doesn't mean that we're malicious or harmful. And you can say, oh, it's so nice to see you happy and mean it, but don't leave it there. Like if you think, oh, and then you go, oh God, that didn't come across the way that I meant it. What I meant is it's really nice. Joy's so important. Like you can say, sometimes people get so worried about what they say and everyone mucks up. I did, like I
yeah,
still do now. But it's that, don't leave it there. The minute that something comes out of your mouth, even if you see the expression on someone's face,
yes,
you know that. So you can apologize and you can
yes,
make it better. But by actually just shutting it down and then just leaving and being
yes.
like, oh, that
Now I'm
person,
just left to deal with
or
what you said.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And that's
yeah.
such a great
So,
point. I think that's such a great distinction right there, is we as grievers know you're going to say shit that's good. You
mm,
almost can't not say something that's going to hurt us, because again, I'm so raw. Everything is raw, and I feel like you said very exposed, like I have no skin to cover any of my nerves. But
mm,
you caring how you came across, and just that pause of like, I don't know if that's the wrong thing to say. I'm sorry if that was the wrong, any of that helps. I can release it
yeah,
immediately with you acknowledging it. And right now I'm having to do a lot of releasing outside of the conversations because nobody's acknowledging it. But that's okay
mm,
too. that's why I'm having these conversations. I refuse to hold on the way I did when it was my younger losses, because this one is so different that I really I could stay mad forever about anything, because that's what my brain wants to do so that I don't have to feel, because it's really comfortable in anger. It's really comfortable in agitation and resentment. It knows exactly what to do with that, because that's what I've done for my whole life. But I choose not to stay there, because I want to feel this and just keep moving. Every day, just keep moving through it and carrying it with me forever, but not drowning in it, because I deserve a full life of love and joy.
You do. I always think that anger is a really interesting one because it gets such a bad rap. But anger, and I think why people can sit in anger for a long time, is because it's it's pretty powerful, and it's a pretty active emotion. So again, when you go back to that witnessing or that feeling or that sitting in that space can be really uncomfortable, whereas anger can actually feel more comfortable because you feel that you're able to do something. So
Yeah, it gives you a
it's
little bit of
quite an
energy.
interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
real
gives you a bit of
small sense
energy.
of
Yeah,
control, too. Because I can fight with people in my
yeah,
head all day. I'm really good at that. That's the
yeah,
way I spent every minute of
yeah.
my life, in a former version of myself. So that's why
Mm,
I've been hesitant to join like child loss support groups, because anger is a very real and a very normal part of this. But it is a place I have actively chosen not to be. And so I
mm,
am really
mm,
triggered by the level of anger that I feel from other child loss
mm,
grievers right
mm,
now.
mm,
And
mm.
so I'm slowly building up my tolerance to that, where I feel safe
Yeah,
in someone else's anger, because they're not wrong,
yeah.
but I'm not either. And so it's just not a place I feel safe right now. And
Mm,
so I've had to
mm,
really work through my own feelings and projections in that. So,
yeah, yeah.
well,
And
man, I
that's
have
really
loved having
important.
you today. I truly hope you will come back on. In the meantime, tell us where we can find you, your book, your space, all the things.
Oh, so I have a website, which is an interactive website. It's got lots of resources on there. You can find my book on there, and I have courses and things like that. It's just one word, thisisgrief.nz. And that's probably the best way to contact me. And my book is on, it's everywhere. It's sort of Barnes and Noble and Amazon. It's on audiobook as well as Kindle, as well as paperback. So is available all over the place. And it's called The Year After Kahlia. It does have a subline, which is, and I always get it in the wrong place. Why do I call my book such a long title? But it's The Year After Kahlia, and it's surviving, loving, and writing my way through loss.
I love that.
So,
I'm so
yeah,
happy
yeah,
that you found an outlet. I really am.
yeah. It's been wonderful for me, and I've learned so much, and it's been curious and learning and being with other people, and it's such an important space to work in,
Yeah.
and yeah, we just need so much work. People need work, and mental health is such an issue, and whatever we can do to ease the load.
Yeah. Agree. I totally agree. Well, thank you so much. I will make sure to include all of that in the show notes.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally Unavailable. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.
Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. Picture this. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it. A brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.